Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced founder of FTX, he's in prison right now. He gave an interview to the New York Sun from prison. It's a fascinating
and what
recording.
is the New York Sun? How have I never heard of this?
It's a newspaper.
Yeah, I know, but did nobody want to cover this?
It is odd that he gave the exclusive to the New York Sun. Yeah, it's odd that the Wall Street Journal wasn't calling him. There might be some questions I saw in the comments here. Some people were like, "Why are you promoting this? Like, let's just move on from this. Let's not highlight this guy."
Yeah,
I think it's great. I like hearing these people.
There's totally an argument. Don't give him a platform. That kind of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd never heard of the New York Sun. It's reader supported, $250 a year.
We don't like that.
Which
I wish it was
is
corporate supported like us here.
But it's known as a conservative.
Interesting.
Yes,
leaning. And that's a big theme here is that he went to jail and he was very liberal.
He's
and
inspired
now
by Ross.
And now he's saying I was never liberal, basically. Anyway, I'll read through some of Patrick McKenzie's analysis. If you want to scroll a couple slides ahead, there are some quotes from the interview that you could interject. So Patrick McKenzie shares that SBF has a new interview out conducted from prison. He says the highlights include a strong direct statement of his innocence, accusing prosecution and judge of politicized process, analogizing to the experience of President Trump, apparently maneuvering to secure clemency, implied rationale for persecution, his donation to Republicans.
Which is fascinating. And if you actually look at, there's plenty of data on his political donations.
Yes.
I'm going to try to pull those up.
Yeah.
Because he did donate to both sides.
He did.
It's just that the actual concentration of those dollars was heavily left leaning.
I think that's correct.
And not and so yes, he can say, "Oh, look at all these Republicans I donated to. They were trying to pin me like they did Trump. I'm just like Trump." It's like,
Yeah, I wasn't entirely buying his argument. He says he expresses frustration that S&C, John Wraith III, didn't collaboratively receive balance sheets and other business records from him and rather set about reconstructing them, which he claims delayed recovery and cost creditors substantial amounts of money.
So I'm on opensecrets.org right now. I'm going to just read the first 10 recipients, and then we can the people can decide. So first recipient from SBF to the Democratic Party of Pennsylvania, second to the Democratic Party of Arizona, third to the Democratic Party of Nevada, fourth to the Democratic Party of Texas, five to Democratic Party of Nebraska.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Democratic Committee in Florida, Democratic Party of Wisconsin, Democratic Party of North Carolina, Democratic Party of Ohio, Joe Biden directly, Democratic Party of Colorado, DNC Services Corp, Democratic Party of Virginia.
We got a picture.
I could just go on and on. I mean, also Kamala, of course.
The other thing is that he had said publicly that, like, from his EA, effective altruist, like rationalist perspective, electing a president is so high leverage, you should be willing to spend $1 billion on it. You should donate $1 billion. And he wasn't talking about giving $1 billion to Trump. In fact, I think he said stopping Trump is so important that you must donate.
No, you can see here he donated directly to Biden and directly to Kamala.
Yeah. And so, it's kind of an odd argument for him to make. So he characterizes
this is actually
FTX.
crazy. So on the first 50 there of the donations, there is one Republican. So anyways,
so probably some sort of power law.
Some truth to it.
He's like 80-90% Republican or a Democrat donor. So he claims that FTX US was entirely backed one-to-one by deliverable assets denominated in the same fashion as customer deposits. FTX International as being levered. 80% of users use leverage futures, but solvent at all times with a solvable liquidity problem in November of 2022. So if you remember this, he was saying, like, look, there's been a run on the bank. We're insolvent, but we have the money if we can liquidate other positions. It's just going to take us time to liquidate other positions.
Yeah, and to his so he was big into companies like Anthropic, right? And so if he had been able to hold on for another year, he would have been able to presumably sell a large, and he benefited from huge markups in that position. But again, they were not like, we got to put him in the truth zone here. if there was a solvable liquidity problem in November,
you're
I
only
think
as good as you can. The assets are only as valuable as you can liquidate them.
Yeah.
Like if you're
there's
in
a reason that
super
banks,
illiquid problem.
Yeah, there's a reason that banks aren't saying, "Oh, it's great, you've got all this Series B startup stock. I'm totally going to give you a $10 million mortgage."
Exactly. That's a great analogy. He seems notably better disciplined than previously about quickly dancing away from questions, which, if answered directly and honestly, would be damaging to his interest. So he's getting better at actually storytelling here. The unambiguous allegation, without naming the unambiguously identified parties, that Salame was sentenced to more than his 3 confessed co-conspirators combined because of his political affiliation. Decisions to cooperate or not, probably more load-bearing there, methinks, says Patrick McKenzie. Anyhow, it's a remarkable document which caused me to update negatively on his candor, which is saying something.
Yeah, so it's interesting that Patrick, who's highlighting this, and I believe that Patrick was one of the people that initially was pretty vocal in November of 2023 when this was all going down, because he's had a history doing highly regulated fintech products at Stripe, right? So like the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of ethics and values and long-term thinking and sort of being able to take some amount of risk, but not with customer funds, and the thing at the end of the day that I feel like is just so important to highlight over and over is SBF was operating a hedge fund that traded against his users at FTX using their own money. That is objective, right? He can say, oh, they were different entities, but they were set up in the same place. It was more or less the same group of people.
And there was a backdoor.
And I don't know why. I remember when, there was a number of things when they were watching their rise, right? I was building a fintech company at the time. I used both, fiat and digital assets, right? I was working with companies like Bored Ape Yacht Club was our highest profile customer, and they did their sort of $4 billion seed round on our platform. So I was doing this. Wow. Meanwhile, SBF is going, yeah, we have 5 engineers at FTX, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I have like 7 or 8 like amazing engineers, and there's way too much to do. Like you can't hit that. So there was just so much sort of going on at this time. Yeah. The other thing is I don't know how all the institutional investors that went into FTX didn't take issue with the fact of him operating. It's one thing for Robinhood to be selling order flow, right? Mm-hmm. And you could very clearly argue that is wrong in many ways, right? Yeah. But it's another thing to be an adversarial trading partner that's also operating one of these exchanges and offering some just crazy incentives. Like you could go on FTX US and get 8% yield on Bitcoin.
Good times.
For presumably because they wanted to acquire deposits to trade with and just be like super degenerate. So like the yield was them being degenerate. Yep. And so, to give Andreessen credit, they were in Coinbase early. That was like their big, position from, I think, like their 2017 fund. But they easily could have found justifications to say, we're going to do this because it's, it's whatever. And they didn't, right? And so the VCs that initially did it were the kind of people to do like a .eth, profile, things like that, right? They were FOMOing in, and some of the stories out of that are fantastic. The whole them being like, he's playing League of Legends, like that's so bullish.
Yeah, and he was terrible at it.
That was your big. So SBF, notoriously would play League of Legends all day long,
like during board meetings, during
board meetings, during conversations with journalists. But your issue with it wasn't that he was playing; it was that he was just bad.
He was bad. Yeah, he wasn't even that good, which is a real tell. At least when Elon's playing on a SpaceX call, he's had someone boost his account to top level so he can speed run the hardest level on the game or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, it's just like it's just disrespectful to play a video game while you're supposed to be pitching a large financial institution. And I mean, lots of things.
Have some respect for our great capital allocators.
Have some respect. What would your mother say? Your mother would say, don't do that. And his mother was a legal expert, right?
Yeah.
At Stanford too. Anyway, there's some quotes from the interview here. We'll read some. On his own decision and claim of innocence, I do absolutely, obviously there are things I would do differently, and that's lots of things. I had a lot of decisions to make as CEO, but by far the single biggest was I backed down from a fight in November 2022. And I should not have let Sullivan and Cromwell take control of FTX. I should have stood up to them, and I didn't. And after that, there were excruciating years waiting, not just me waiting, but millions of customers waiting, being falsely told that there was no money left and they were not going to get any payments until recently. And so he maintains, I could have, landed the plane. I could have pulled out of that nosedive, but he wasn't doing a good job. Just objectively, he was doing a terrible job with those awful tweets. Like, what happened? He was like, he looked in chaos. Like, he was not instilling confidence at all. And also he wasn't doing a good job he did have days to go try and liquidate the Anthropic position. Couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
And so I
remember they were trying to fire sale.
Yeah.
Positions.
They were trying to fundraise and stuff and shore up the balance sheet and do all sorts of stuff that you do in a banking crisis. But it was just too much of a mess.
Yeah.
And it was not run like a proper financial institution.